Starting Kickstarter. I'm Tonya Hall, and joining me is Yancey Strickler, entrepreneur and author, and co founder of Kickstarter. Welcome, Yancey. Give us a brief summary of your life journey that brought you to the point of co founding Kickstarter and changing the lives of many.
Um, well, it was Perry Chen who first had the idea for Kickstarter in 2001 or 2002. He was living in New Orleans and wanted to throw a concert, but it was going to cost like 20 grand to make it happen. And rather than front that himself, he had this idea of what if I just proposed the idea of the concert online? People put up their credit cards to buy tickets, but they're only charged if the show sells out. And so this is a way that he wouldn't have to take on all the risk or make the decision himself. Instead, everyone could do it together. But 2001, 2002 is a dark time in the internet. Like that's, everything's dying and a hard time to start anything. And he was an artist, so it wasn't like, he had the pedigree to launch it at that moment. But he and I met in New York a few years later, and we met Charles Adler a little bit after that. I was a music critic before. Charles is a graphic designer. So we were three non-tech, non-entrepreneurs who started Kickstarter, which I think probably expresses a lot of the values and the things that the company and the site is about. But it also made it very difficult to get started early on. Just having three people who can't code try to build a website in 2005. It's like, it's like trying to get monkeys to write Shakespeare. But maybe the monkeys have a better chance. But just not easy. But managed to find over time some great people to work with us. In particular, Lance Ivy, great developer who was just huge to us early on and for a long time. And then in April 2009, Kickstarter launched. And there was no launch party. There was a launch party, I guess, a couple weeks later. It was like 20 people. But this was not an anticipated event. Weren't really on the radar. We've been toiling on this idea forever. And the day it launched was just like, thank goodness it's finally here. And it was exciting moment.
What were some of the challenges and maybe surprises, some things that you maybe didn't expect?
Um, well, I guess how normalizing things become, like how much the experience of the day-to-day would change and you just get used to it. I don't know, just thinking about from those very early days to like as it's growing and just the amount of things in a startup you're having to constantly adjust to. And almost also like the way that it's hard to really take joy in things that you should take joy in, that, maybe when you first started it, you would imagine the moment you reach, whatever, 1,000 users or whatever those milestones are that feel big. When you get there, you're just so worried about what's next. It's hard to appreciate where you've already gotten, which I just think is kind of a lot of life is about that. Um, but we were fortunate to make some really good decisions early on. One was just being wary of raising too much money and giving up too much control of the company. From the beginning, Perry and Charles and I had all agreed like success was Kickstarter mattering for the long term. Like we wanted to be Craigslist. We wanted to be the Green Bay Packers of the internet, like a public trust that just like does what it's supposed to do and like knows not to, go areas where it shouldn't. And isn't existing as like a personal lottery ticket for the people who started it. Like the goal of Kickstarter is not us getting rich. The goal of Kickstarter is Kickstarter like mattering for the long term. And so made a lot of structural choices from the beginning to make sure that was the case. And that ended up being hugely important because, we didn't hire a lot of people. We wanted to be independent. So we operated in the black our second year in business. And that gives you the freedom to do what you want to do, to make values-driven choices. As I've seen with companies that came up around the same time as us or companies I know that did raise a lot of venture capital, when you're raising that money, you're basically signing a post-dated check. And every decision that you don't know it yet, but every decision you make has already been made for you. It's all about what will produce the outcome that makes most likely to having enough money in the bank account to write that check. And there's a question of how you're going to go about doing that, but the purpose, the outcome of the company is sort of decided when you raise that kind of funding. And so for us, it was just like, let's, we want to try to chart a different course. We want to try to be able to operate, according to our own profitability. We have investors, and we have one venture investor, but with everyone, we were very clear that this was a very different type of organization. So this is what allowed Kickstarter to become a PBC and just chart, just sort of be a different kind of company on the internet. And looking back on it now, I can see that that possibility only happened because some of the choices that were made very early on.
You've changed the lives of so many who had an idea or something that they wanted to do, entrepreneurs everywhere. Uh, what comes to mind as maybe one of, if not the best success story, helping an idea come to fruition?
Um, I mean, there are a lot of them. I mean, a lot of my duties at the company over the years were working with the creative community, and so I got to be in the rooms with people when their projects were launching. I got to be in the rooms when they hit their goal. And I remember I was with Rob Thomas, the creator of Veronica Mars, in his office in Austin when the Veronica Mars project launched. He and I had been working on that for over a year to get that project to go. And, Veronica Mars was like 8 years of Warner Brothers telling him no to like more shows or a movie. And they reached their $2 million budget within 8 hours on Kickstarter. And he was very emotional that day because, he made Party Down, other great things too. But he, like, you don't, there's an emotional feeling of like this matters to people, but then to have a crystallizing moment where it's like, so it's just so clear and everyone's rallying around you and you are like the internet's favorite thing, and just this outpouring of love that he and Kristen Bell, everyone on the cast really went through in that moment was the same thing every person goes through, which is like, oh my goodness, people do care about what I do. You know, people do love me. People do care about me. Now, sometimes the outcome is the flip, which is people don't care about me as much as I want, and I didn't get funded, and those are hard things. But like every successful project is a real victory of probably someone doing something for a really long time and being a really good human being about it. And then getting to have a moment where they get to really experience that. It's like a wedding to yourself. It's a great it's a great moment of reflection and being honored. And not every project works out that way, but at its best, that's what it is for people. And I got to experience that too with Kickstarter, and kind of like, if I could wish for anything for everyone, it would be for everyone to be able to go through experience like that of really feeling validated, so clearly validated in a moment. Because it's we all deserve it. We all deserve it, and it really lifts you up.
It's easy to see your passion about this type of approach towards life, towards business, and you have other passions. I mean, you've got things and hobbies and that sort of thing. In fact, you have a passion for music. So, what role does your love of music play in being a leader and running a business in life?
Hmm. That's a. I mean, I make a lot of mixtapes. I don't know what that does for me.
Okay, new
I mean,
favorite.
what's that? I do make
Love
mixtapes.
that.
I don't know. I mean, I play music every day. I play guitar and write songs all the time. And um, I mean, it's a yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that I stepped down as Kickstarter CEO 2 years ago and spent a year and a half writing a book and like diving into the creative artistic part of myself that's always been a part of me, but sort of got put on the shelf to lead a company. Um, and I can even feel playing guitar or playing music, like the degree of freedom of like what gets expressed when I play now versus when I had all these responsibilities. It's like it's an interesting just reflection of what's going on inside. But I mean, I use music as metaphors all the time. I mean, I would try to tell a designer, let's do it in this kind of way, and like reference a song, and most of the time would just get a blank look back because I was referencing something either that was way older than them or too obscure. But that is how I think. I'm just like, oh, that feeling, the feeling of tomorrow never knows. How can we have that but on this trust and safety page? But these are, anyway.
I gotta find out where to get one of your mixtapes.
Oh
Mixtapes.
yeah,
The fact that you
yeah,
said mixtape, I just love that.
yeah. They're on Spotify. They're on Spotify.
There you go. Yancey Strickler, co-founder of Kickstarter, entrepreneur, and author of this could be our future, a manifesto for a more generous world. If somebody wants to maybe, I don't know, tap into one of your mixtapes on Spotify,
Yep.
or if they want to pick up a copy of your book, Yancey, how can they do that?
Yeah, just ystrickler.com, my first initial last name, strickler.com. And the book is everywhere. This could be our future, a manifesto for a more generous world.
Thanks again, Yancey. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here or go to tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.